of Money with Santosh Serur.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Sound of Money. Today on my show, I have a very special guest, a guest who has had tremendous experience in the world of finance, almost 25 years plus. And that is not just experience of working, but it is also work experience of shaping policy, advocacy, in terms of marketing, sales, literally every field of finance. And it's not an easy game out there for somebody who is into finance and get into different world of finance, and that's exactly what our guest brings to the table today. Let's welcome our guest from Delhi, and joining us is Ms. Jyoti Rai. Hi Jyoti, and welcome to this episode of The Sound of Money.
Thank you, Santosh. This is so wonderful to be finally part of your podcast series. I truly
Thank you.
believe it. And currently, I'm in Mumbai. So yes,
Okay.
dialing in from Mumbai.
Okay, that's great. So it's my own city, so I can imagine. So yeah, so Jyoti, you have had an excellent career as a business Sherpa or as a sales Sherpa, as you call it. Maybe you should tell us, our audiences, your growth story, how easy or difficult it has been right from your childhood, and then what are you today, right? How much of an effort you had to put in to become what you are today. Maybe you could start from there.
Totally, no, definitely. It's like walking down your memory
Yeah.
um, lanes. So I just to kind of, differentiate this conversation. So yes, childhood. I think the best part of my life, or most of our people, people's life is in childhood. Childhood was very fascinating, very adventurous. I am an army brat. Father was an army infantry, and brat typically means is born, raised, and transferred. so, so by the time we would be settled in a particular city or a particular post, it was always the time to move on.
Okay.
So childhood was very enterprising. We were outdoor kids. I had two elder brothers, raised without any differentiation. We were raised to, be equal, and everybody was supposed to be learning horse riding, swimming. Sports used to be the common denominator of fun outdoors. So and yes, I have done a lot of trekking ever since I was 5 years old. So childhood was fantastic. Traveling all over, and I think somewhere I think parents played a very interesting role and a very important one, where they made all this movement transfers, and they made it look very positive for us,
Hmm.
that making new friends was a part of shifting very frequently. Look, getting to familiarize with new culture, new surrounding, new dialect language of different states and posts. We used to be there, and I guess the adaptation, learning of soft skills, there was abundance of it. And my both parents believed that the education is also outside the four walls of school.
Yeah.
So I think we learned as we played along, and yeah, very regimental routine, very disciplined life, and that's what the childhood was all about. uh,
Okay.
I think all three of us siblings were very, very uh, uh, I think we were always very enthused about doing something different or going camping or something. We were all just so skilled
Yeah.
to create a rafting boat, to campfire with so tremendous fun was the childhood side of it.
Okay.
Um, I think the coming to the career.
Yeah. But before that, I wanted to ask you, of all the places your dad got transferred, which of the places was the one that you really, etched in your memory and you loved the most?
Oh yes, my earliest memory is from a place called Gangtok,
Uh-huh.
Seekhenge.
Wow. Okay.
That's where I had my first memory flash of my
Okay.
childhood, followed by Delhi, some portion of it. Then it was Meghalaya, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Tripura, major part of Tripura, and subsequently stayed for 8 years in Bikaner, a small
Okay.
town, and did maximum. So yes, earliest memory Gangtok, the
Uh-huh.
beautiful valleys, and interior post of Agartala, Tripura is where
Okay.
I have my earliest memory. Otherwise, stayed in all seven states in East.
Okay. Amazing.
So yes,
A very rare combination, right? And I'm sure it was those years when when the seven sisters, as they are called, were not as developed as what we see today. So
Yes.
it would have been a very difficult terrain and a difficult, relatively a challenging life, as a student, as a kid, right?
Yes, it was definitely, travel was a very difficult part, but we used to tag along with that, gypsies and jonga,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes break our head also. The roads used to be so bad.
Yeah.
Yes, that used to be part of fun, introduced as a part of adventure, uh, that way.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of your career, how did this and from where did this start your career journey, your amazing career journey?
Actually, totally unpredictable. I never thought I'll join financial markets because there was nobody in the family as a
Hmm.
whole to
Okay.
really guide one through. I would have, in fact, I was talking to one of my portfolio companies, Srijan, on space tech and all. So I was telling I could have become an astronaut or I could have become a lawyer. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I knew I would be an outlier,
Hmm.
so to say. Financial market job, my first job happened, I think just sheer luck. I was in Pune, I was sulking because I couldn't get through an MBA
Okay.
at that time. And I remember getting a call from my cousin. She was a banker,
Hmm.
and she just said that stop sulking, get up, go for the interview tomorrow. Citibank is recruiting sales folks.
Okay.
So didn't know anything about anything for that matter at that time. And I remember Citibank was handling the interviews through their associate in Pune. And the first question they asked me was not my degree, how
Hmm.
much have I studied, what was my percentage. They just asked me, can you do sales?
Okay.
I said, of course, why not? I'll do sales. I think that's got my first job.
Okay.
And I believe we belong to, yeah.
Yeah, this is a very good question they asked you, and you equally had a very good, very positive answer to it. Do you think that came in from your kind of upbringing, the kind of outward going child you were, and the kind of exposure you got, in terms of different cities, and I mean, it must not have been an easy life as well, right? So, do you think that helps you in terms of your conditioning? That really,
Absolutely, absolutely, Santosh. Because the confidence is
yeah.
not about saying yes, or
Hmm.
the confidence is about believing that can you do it, even if it's for the first time.
Yeah.
So in my case, I have, in my childhood, I was a very aware kid. I used to be very conscious about, what's happening in the family. And let's face the fact that an army officer's life is a very humble life, very middle
Hmm.
class life.
Hmm.
So, and I remember we were three kids growing up and we wanted our own expenses and pocket money.
Yeah.
And I could really see that would stretch my father at some
Hmm.
point because
Hmm.
my both the brothers had their bikes,
Yeah.
petrol
Yeah.
भरना होता है और उनके खर्चे. I started doing part-time jobs after 10th grade uh,
Okay.
because Bikaner was a small town एंड कुछ ज्यादा करने को होता नहीं था. कितनी आप
Hmm.
मूवीज देखोगे, कितना आप
Hmm.
आउटिंग के लिए जाओगे. तब कैफेज और स्टारबक्स नहीं होते थे.
नहीं थे. Hmm.
So I remember one of my friends elder brother telling कि ज्योति, you speak well, English अच्छी है, there is a computer institute who wants counselor,
Okay.
admission counselor. I said I'll do it.
Okay.
So the 10th की समर हॉलीडेज में मैंने पार्ट टाइम जॉब किए. देन ग्रेजुएशन के वक्त मैंने पार्ट टाइम जॉब किया. आई वाज इन द evening college in
Uh-huh.
Ajmer University backed college. And so I had exposed myself to part-time jobs and I had the
Hmm.
discipline side of 9 to 6 type,
Yeah.
handling phone calls, maintaining register, inward, outward.
Yeah.
So एक idea था.
Hmm.
And when Citibank asked me this job, क्या sales कर सकते हो? So I said, of course. So I think that what you're trying to say is that yes, the army environment that I was
Hmm.
raised in made me a very confident child. I think all of us were very confident
Hmm.
that पहले yes बोल दो, बाद में देख लेंगे,
Ah,
संभाल लेंगे मतलब.
correct.
So yes, that's it. That's how it all started. Very skill-based hiring,
Uh-huh.
and but I didn't know it was so tough. But
Yeah.
it just became easier as you start
Yeah.
facing the challenges at the front.
Yeah. And
Because
I think your success, your 25 years successful career, also fact remains that you joined in Citibank at a possibly a level where you were made to make your hands dirty, get to the ground, understand the realities, which must have been tough, but that helps, right? At the management level that you are now in, you know what to expect and the kind of challenges on the ground, right?
Yes, I think you said it right in a different context than a dirting your hand. I tell you, that was much more than dirting hands. The learning was absolutely on ground. Like
Hmm.
not listening to the ground or ear to the ground, you're literally crawling on the ground.
Yeah.
That real the experience was. As I said, sales was exciting because it required a personality that was extrovert who can get out of this comfort zone, meet clients. But the layers of challenges happens when you are in a new territory. Like I was in Pune.
Hmm.
I left house for the first time, and I was by myself.
Yeah.
And then the role required me to bring on casa sales from a very unorganized sector of Bhawanipet. If you know Pune,
Mm-hmm.
Bhawanipet is a timber market area,
Okay.
and you do not have the. And most of my colleagues and had taken up good areas like Dole Patil, Bun Garden, Koregaon Park. So they had swanky
Yeah.
geography
Clients.
to
Yeah.
go for.
Yeah.
In my case, I had Bhawanipet,
Yeah.
where the promoters and all, which are sitting in timber units,
Yeah.
saw and husk out everywhere.
Yeah.
And I remember I was literally in tears when I was told that this is your area. Initially, I was excited. I didn't know anything about Bhawanipet. What is this area? But when I went there, I was like, oh my God, how will I sell?
Yeah.
I think that's where my something
The click.
something clicked, and I said, okay, it's like moving to a different post that I don't know the language and culture, and I just took off, and I
Took
had
on
the
the
highest.
challenge.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. I from Bhawanipet, I had the highest sales
Oh,
coming in
awesome.
the and
Awesome.
Santosh, it was so difficult to begin with. Like I would go and say कि सर वहाँ पे कोई सरदार जी होंगे या कोई
Hmm.
हरियाणा का कोई होगा जो टिम्बर मार्केट में बड़ा शॉप चलाता है. एंड मैं जाके बोलूंगी सर मैं सिटी बैंक से आई हूँ आपका अकाउंट खोलने से बात करनी है. बोलते कौन सी सिटी का बैंक है ये? You
That
had
was
to
the
start.
level of awareness probably in those days, right? About
Yes,
brands and banks. Yeah. Hmm.
totally. So
Yeah.
उनके साथ वो छोटी चाय पीना in that
Yeah. Yeah.
steel glasses, and I would have 30-40 cups of tea during my cold calls.
Every client, you have to have a tea to start a conversation.
Exactly, exactly. So I think that's where it started, and then there was no looking back. I just got fantastic numbers coming in.
Okay.
Glad I didn't give up because एक तो dialect बहुत different था, pitching
Yeah.
was very different to these guys, and we had they had banking relationships are very sticky relationships. To move
Hmm.
them required a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
At that time, I didn't know it, but once I started the process, I familiarized it and I championed that space while I
Okay.
was working on it. Yeah.
Okay. And then where did it move in terms of your career from city and how did it flourish?
So, city after city, I knew this is. I think at least I come from a school of thought that एक sector में जहाँ पे start किया है उसी sector में अभी career बनेगा.
Hmm.
Our parents' thought process was जिस company join किए उसी company से retire होंगे.
Correct.
एटलीस्ट मेरा कंपनी का रिटायरमेंट नहीं था. सेक्टर मुझे बहुत पसंद आया बिकॉज
Ah.
आई गॉट एक्सपोज टू बैंकिंग.
Hmm.
I got exposed to mutual funds way back in 98. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that blew my mind.
Uh-huh.
The financial literacy, wealth creation prospects that we all have, and the guidance from the
Yeah.
people in the industry. I
Hmm.
think I knew I had this hunch that financial market is my area of my growth, and
Hmm.
companies can change depending upon profile I would like to work. After Citibank, I was part of the startup team which worked on launching Invest Smart, which was
Mm-hmm.
Island of West retail broking initiative.
Okay.
Then it was a small industry. There are hardly any people who would do sales of financial instrument.
Yeah.
Reliance picked me up way back in 2001 when they were
Mm-hmm.
relaunching their asset management in the new avatar.
Uh-huh.
I joined that. वहां पे रिटेल किया, वहां पे इंस्टी किया, वहां पे ऑफिस में चाय भी बना के क्लाइंट को पिलाया, एमफी ट्रेनिंग की. सो पंचिंग योर सेल्स
Yeah.
सब.
Lots of
Lots
interactions
of.
and experiences. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a hardcore mutual funds selling to institutions. Reliance happened. Then I moved to Bombay. I said, बहुत saturation हो गया है mutual funds. saturation point of view was that sales में innovation नहीं था. Everything was very static. And I brought my art, I brought my skills of, अगर यहाँ पे दरवाजा बंद है तो खोलने के लिए you don't have to bang it or break it. You can find different corridors to kind of get there. I think the mutual fund में उस पर काफी saturation उस हिसाब से आ गई थी from a point of view of sales innovation. And I tend to believe that I have been little forward thinking and prepared for forward challenges. Then Reuters happened. Reuters was a phenomenal experience. On one hand, I learned about sales, enigma of sales, that how do we convert a no to yes. What are the various yardsticks that you can benchmark yourself for your own performance of numbers than competing with somebody else? When I moved to multinationals and stuff, I learned about the processes and how do you harness process and systems to scale up. And it's a different world altogether of multinationals. So I was very thrilled. Santosh, I was always called for different roles. I would have walk-in, offers to come and join this company and that company. From Reuters, I went to head AIG, institutional sales, which was, I was that time, I think 29 or 30-year old. And I remember I was told that I was the youngest girl in the institutional space to head this whole insti piece. So that was AIG. What we did, Sandeep Bagla used to be the fund manager. Fantastic team we had. Ravi Mehrotra was the MD. Saurabh Sonthalia was the CEO. Fantastic team. And एक साल का जो टारगेट है वो 9 महीने में करने वाले लोग हम लोग वो थे. So that's what I call myself as a Reliance product, because targets never looked difficult to me. कैसे होगा क्वेश्चन कभी नहीं था, कब करना है ये बताओ, was the attitude. So I took up offers that have never been done before, like the roles were not existing earlier. So the one challenge of my career was that I never got a handover. Never a single handover.
Which is very interesting, because that made you more kind of accustomed to face tough situations, because you never got a handover and you kind of adjusted and you brought and sometimes I'm sure, Jyoti, the very fact that you don't get a handover, in a way, I mean, at that point in time, it may sound difficult and very challenging, but at the same time, you aren't carrying a baggage, right? You're setting it up yourself, right? Yes. So that would have helped in a way, if you look at it in hindsight.
Absolutely, you're bang on. It used to be very tiresome because you have to build up from first client and onward. And you have to hire your team, you have to work in a collaborative way. There was a lot of layers to your everyday success in a company and building that up. I think the challenges like that is something that the companies got the best out of me. I became a great resource, at least I tend to believe, who could build up from one to many kind of stuff. Got tremendous support from various bosses, the team. And attitude ban jata hai, as I said, just khud hi ko grow nahi karna hai, we have to take people along. That's what the Sherpas do. They climb the same range so many times, but they always keep coming back and up to, they know that they can climb the mountain.
Correct.
They have to help the people along.
That's more important.
So that thing stayed with me. The visual of that stayed with me when my dad used to talk about these stories of mountain ranging, climbing and stuff. So yes, and Santosh, also I had no, as people say, ki godfather nahi tha industry mein. So it has to be done by yourself in the right way, and see if, and I would pick up my mentors and all. I would invite myself to them. I want to learn from you. Can you help me?
Fantastic.
So yes, I think it's a patchwork of amazing experience that I put together, the learnings from different leaders I looked up to, and किसी से humility सीखा, किसी से market intelligence सीखा, advocacy सीखा, and things like that.
You had a fantastic, I believe, a working relation with Dr. Raghuram Rajan, right? And what I believe is it was just a phone call that comes to your desk, and you just happen to grab that. Tell us about that experience.
Oh yes, I think that's truly till date the highest point of my career, so to say. Before I come to Raghuram Rajan sir's my meeting rendezvous with Alchemist, as I said in my interview earlier, I must tell you what got me to that phone
Yeah.
call. I think kudos to I remember SBI when I was heading SBI SocGen custodial services. I was heading the business, and we had launched this JV in India.
Yeah.
And I remember when and we were coming into custodial services while it was a combination of biggest national bank, and SocGen is a very
Yeah.
prominent
Yeah.
bank
Yeah.
company.
Correct.
So coming together should have been a great blow up of event. It was an event of a JV
Hmm.
like that. But custody services in India were dominated by foreign players and
Hmm.
highly respectable. These are the players which had created the custodial services like Citibank, BNP, Deutsche.
Yeah.
And most of these head of custodial services were like 2 decades ahead of me, or 1.5 decade ahead of me. I was very young in that space, and I had all these guys were like stalwarts, and I would, sneak in my visiting card, very intimidated by these folks. I remember SBI senior leadership telling me, "Ki Jyoti, to grow along, business with the focus chahiye, but also see how we can help regulatory reforms."
Hmm.
Because we sit on so much information from the client that I think we can add a good perspective to regulators. So don't
Yeah.
give any chance up when it comes to advocacy.
Hmm.
I said, what is advocacy? Because usse pehle to sales hi kiya tha sirf.
Yeah.
They said advocacy is anything but lobbying.
Hmm.
So if you think this helps the industry, be vocal about it. At the end, industry itni badi hai ki everybody will be beneficiary.
Yeah.
So I could see that the multinational players or foreign players in custody will always talk about their interest first.
Agree. Yeah.
Because plus they are large, they are globally present in different geographies, so they have a much larger spectrum of advice and perspective they can give to regulator. But ultimately, अपना benefit होना चाहिए उनका.
Yeah.
So I participated in series of meetings in North Block with financial ministry representatives and regulators. And unlike anybody else, I would always speak about the industry first and
Hmm.
speak of reforms that are required, and not built up or support any frivolous vision that सब
Yeah.
बढ़िया चल रहा है sir, आप चिंता नहीं करो.
Yeah. Yeah. No sugarcoating. You were quite.
No
Yeah.
sugarcoating. I
Hmm.
was right there with my facts and fundamentals, and I think that led to my word of mouth,
Hmm.
that I was putting in efforts or something like that. And then comes to that moment in the morning where I was at my desk around. I reach early office, so I got a call, and my friends used to all friends also do prank calls and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got a call. They said, "Can I speak to Jyoti Rai?" I said, "Speaking." He said, "Hi, Jyoti, this is Raghuram Rajan, Chief Economic Advisor to Government of India." So I said, "Is
Your
it
jaws
I?"
dropped.
Like, it's a prank call, hai,
Yeah.
100% prank call. Hai.
One of those FM radio prank calls.
And so sober, introducing
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
I said, okay. And I didn't take him seriously for the first 1 minute of the conversation. And I was like, definitely prank call. Hai. He said, Jyoti, I've heard about you. I got your reference. I am giving you a little short heads up. Can you come on Thursday to travel to Delhi?
Hmm.
I said, sure, why not? I'm like, least very casual.
You're
I said,
still in that zone, right? The
still in
prank
zone.
zone. Yeah.
कोई मेरी चाय कर रहा है. I should not get very excited,
Yeah.
make a fool of myself. Then the conversation went well, and I said, okay, are you sure you're calling the right person? I'm Jyoti Rai. I am heading business and sales for SocGen. He said, yeah, that's the name. And that's the designation. And I have your card in front of me. I said, no, this is getting serious. And I said, okay, fine. I said, okay, sure, send me the details. And pleasantry exchange, phone kept down. Then I called up the number from where the call had come, and the person picked up. It said Office of Raghuram Rajan, Chief Economic
That's
Advisor.
when it started to sink in.
It stuck me, and in fact, I'm just getting goosebumps. And I said, "Can I speak to him for 1 minute?" And So I spoke to him. He said, "Oh, is it? You didn't believe me?" I said, "Sorry if I came across someone disconnected." And I said, "No, no, no." So yeah, so I said, "Can you now give me the background for which I'm
Yeah,
being?"
now let's come to the
Let's
facts.
come to the point. He said, "Jyoti, this is with regards to quasi sovereign and sovereign issuances by Government
Hmm.
of India. So uh, for um, for making the reserve, which are on the deficit side of forex, if we
Yeah.
we need to build it up, and we have a plan that I would like you to be part of."
Hmm.
And I was like, zillions thought coming in. I said, "Where the hell the quasi and the
You
sovereign
come into that.
issuances?"
Yeah.
I come into that. I said, "I'm not sure if this is the right paper for me to contribute
Hmm.
because I come from a very while I'm in the market, but I'm not a technical or a trader."
Hmm.
He said, "Yes, yes, I'm aware of it.
Hmm.
And why don't you come and be a part of the team and contribute on international marketing strategies for us to take this product marketing,
Yeah.
global?"
Hmm.
I said, "Now that makes sense."
Yeah.
Okay. And I said, "Sir, could you tell me who are the other people?" Like, मुझे लगा मतलब पूरी पूरी
Yeah. There will be a
like
team.
पूरा पूरा टीम बुलाया होगा, पूरा राउंड टेबल बैठेगा.
Ah.
He said, "Jyoti, I would like to work with smaller team. So I have just picked up three people, and you are the fourth one."
Okay.
I said, "Okay." And so I said, "Thank you so much." And I said, "I have, he's been more than kind to answer my questions and stuff." He said, very politely, he said, "Jyoti, it's a short notice. Could you come it on Thursday?" I said, "Sir, sure, I'll be there." Then I spoke to the his secretary, ki, who are the other people? And
Yeah.
I got the MD of Goldman Sachs,
Okay.
MD of JP Morgan, and me being there. So Sanjay Bhattacharya, I think Sanjay Chatterjee.
Okay.
So yes, I was part of that, and that's where it started. And then meeting him on
Yeah.
Thursday morning, sharp 9:30, he kickstarted the meeting. And oh my God, that was an outstanding moment. So the point, Santosh, is there that when you're getting a chance to think loud with decision makers, policy makers,
Hmm.
it's absolutely necessary to be, speaking your mind, speaking the, reality as it is,
Yeah.
because they are in the position to make the changes and modification which
Yeah.
everybody will be benefited.
They would
And then,
rely on you to get facts from the ground, and basis that
absolutely.
a certain decision or a reform would come into place, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the word of mouth of your conduct, your culture, your
Yeah.
approach does
Yeah.
travel.
Yeah.
I was the beneficiary of some well-wishers talking
Brilliant.
about highly of me and getting to meet Raghuram sir and then
Yeah.
working on a short, sweet, now today we call it masala bonds and stuff,
Yeah.
but I did a small work behind the
Absolutely.
scene for
It
that.
makes a huge difference, right?
Yes, it
So, yeah.
does.
So,
It does.
so Jyoti, you're also India's youngest women directors. I think this is a very important point on this podcast for me because the role of women in boardrooms and breaking the glass ceiling was a very big challenge until a few years ago. I'm not saying it's not one now, but it is progressive, right? It is progressing slowly, and now you do see, of course, you have regulatory requirements as well, but those years it must have been an extremely difficult challenge, and then to be in one of that big league, must have been a challenge on the ground. How did this all happen?
This is very interesting because, as I said, I always kept eye on present and one eye on the future, towards the
Hmm.
future. Because in sales, that becomes your this thing कि आज के लिए नहीं काम करना है अपने को,
हाँ,
next छह
आगे के
महीने
लिए
का आगे
करेक्ट
का भी target भी
विजन होना
ready
चाहिए.
रखना है.
Yeah.
I think that I used to read a lot and see, as you rightly said, the breaking of glass ceiling has never been easy.
Yeah.
It has become relatively easy now for women out there because of a lot of discussion of diversity, equity, inclusion happening amongst the boardroom and amongst people.
Yeah.
At that time, I think SEBI made a very dramatic announcement and very well received by the industry. That was that boardrooms, the listed companies board should have at least independent representation,
Hmm.
and it will be definitely better if there is an independent women director on the board of the company.
Yeah.
I think that was a big needle mover,
Hmm.
and that happened sometime in 2013.
Yeah.
Um, but what happened is that the listed companies are say 6,000 plus,
Hmm.
and that many women directors weren't there with the
Yeah.
required qualification. Even in my case, when I got when I got invited, and suddenly there was, my inbox were full of requests to come as an independent director. I felt like a mini celebrity, it's a dream come true for a financial market participant, whoever it is, to be a director or an independent director or contribute at a board level of a listed company. So I was very excited, and I remember me going to my friends at regulator, the well-wishers, my seniors, my mentors, who loved my approach and supported my approach of advocacy. I thought I'll take this news to them that, hey, I have 60 invites from various listed companies to come on the board. But as you expect from your good well-wishers and mentors, that they would always advise you well. They said, Jyoti, don't get carried away. Okay, it's a great thing to do, but remember, you've been a business and sales Sherpa. You've been on the sales and the business side of things. Now, being a director on a listed company board requires you, up and tight with the governance and other aspects of regulations with regards to. So, beef up your understanding, train yourself, go do a course, then choose to work with a smaller listed company,
to begin with.
and to gain knowledge of it. So I was, I think this happened in 2014-15 that I got my first board seat. And thanks to friends and the regulators and all who guided me correctly. But you know what, Santosh, that time there was no structured course to do to be ready for an independent director. So you were left for your own reading.
To do your own research and reading, and try and find out what's true and what's not.
Exactly. So I found out, I did my Google search, I realized there is one university in Europe, which is Copenhagen Business School, who had a board of directors course. And it was a tailored course for senior managers who are already at a board position and want to now elevate the compliances and governances, or the ones that are looking to take one position in their home turf. And I went and studied there and did my own course there. And I came back with a great understanding. I had IKEA, Suzanne from IKEA on the board. I had a lot of other folks on that in that course. I think that was my starting point. When I came back, I had this request from responsive industry. The existing board of director there recommended my name. That chew her brains, bring her on board, and I kept aside all other invites and stuff, and I said, okay, I'm happy to come on board and learn the ropes. So and that was good enough. I realized later on that I think one of the youngest or the youngest, because board roles were like 45 and 50 average age. After now, though, it has changed. Now, still the polarization of age is on a higher side. But I do encourage women to take up these roles. But it's not to be taken as a filling up position. It comes with a lot of ownership and understanding of
a lot of responsibilities, and as you say, risk and governance and regulatory requirements, and you end of the day the buck stops at you, right? I mean
so it's an amazing experience, and yes, later on, of course, I in my own small capacity influenced a lot of women to take up these roles in a more structured way. And yeah, so that time I didn't realize I was the youngest. But when you are in the boardroom and you have promoters and heavyweights, and then you have a point to make, I think that stayed with me. Yes, something I have done which is something outlierish.
So that's what you're, in the beginning you mentioned that you always knew that from your family standpoint you would be one of the outliers, and you always have been in that kind of a sphere. Jyoti, we wanted to know about your VC stint and a couple of VCs where you have been an investor. That's one. And your very recent Ethernet, right? A little bit on that. EtherWire. What exactly is this, and what's your vision for that?
All right. So two things. One is the VC, the investments in startups. I think I always, in fact, one of my bosses highlighted that, Jyoti, did you realize you were an entrepreneur working as a professional? So I said, if entrepreneur is about जुनून कि एक चीज पकड़ ली और उसको करना है, तो maybe I'm an entrepreneur of my own vertical. So I knew someday I would want to be an entrepreneur and put my visions of my own self, that what I visualize, what I really get excited about, I should put
Yeah.
out.
Hmm.
But then you need to learn the ropes,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Family में कोई entrepreneur businessman था नहीं, all professionals and stuff. So I said, okay, one way to learn about entrepreneurship is to learn on ground
Yeah.
and invest in good startups, learn from the ecosystem and the founders, understand do's, don'ts, rights and wrong. So that where I started my angel investment journey,
Mm-hmm.
and I still continue that. But there also I did not go with the trend that edutech में सब डाल रहे हैं तो मैं भी edutech में डाल दूँ. I was very clear I will have my own investment thesis.
Yeah.
I will सब सीखेंगे सबसे करेंगे अपने मन की उस हिसाब से. So yes, that made me invest and get to know phenomenal super founders, and then of course the entrepreneurial bug caught up with me. And I said, some of us has worked, Santosh, that we see opportunity in cracks and gaps.
Yeah.
Okay. And the basic fundamental that I learned about backing a startup or coming up with an idea was from a very large investor of, if I'm right, I don't remember his name, but the investor was from US and they were investing in neonatal care in India, a very niche space.
Yeah.
So he said, as long as your idea takes away a pain point of a society or fills up an important gap,
yeah,
you need to continue to work on your idea.
That's a very good that's a very good pointer, right? For
Yes.
For a new VC wanting to get into.
Yes,
That's
totally.
Absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Totally. So when I started EtherWire, I knew that I have worked like I use thought leadership as one of the vectors of sales, which is now very common that a lot of people do webinars and self-promote themselves. Something like this I started a decade plus back, that thought leadership can be a one vector of sales and branding. And branding के लिए लाखों रुपए खर्च करने की जरूरत नहीं है. I've been a bootstrap person, highly resourceful, that your background makes you. So I never enjoyed spending money to get results. I said, वो तो सब कर लेंगे. Let's get result by bootstrapped approach.
Okay.
So that was my thought, and EtherWire was basically a platform where I would like to put shape to something that I've been doing, which is promoting India in the global map. Which is predominantly the common denominator across all the sales career that I have dealt and done in the past. So EtherWire is what I would like you to see it as a comparison, what LinkedIn did in the time of networking and Facebook.
Okay.
EtherWire will be doing that professional media platform in the times of podcasting and YouTube. There's so much of content out there. And just do it in a more structured way, and something that I realized as a gap. Amazing content is happening today. Amazing insights coming on by various podcasters across diverse topic. I said, okay, I would see a lot of things and watch a lot of things, but I would not able to remember and recall stuff.
Correct.
So I said, okay, let me create channels and content where I give them the tools to remember too. Okay, so I think the tools is where I am bringing to EtherWire podcasts. The content is generated through amazing data scraping of data analytics and AI being run at several on several hashtags, that I come to know that this is the content that will be absorbed.
Okay, fantastic
by
idea.
The target.
That's the gap you have identified, and
yes.
you're plugging it. Fantastic.
Totally. And last but not the least, as I said, मेरा थोड़ा point of view बहुत अलग रहा है. If people would see left, I'll be seeing right. So I'm that kind of a student in the class. So what I realized is that in the social media, as much as I understood and read about it, familiarized with social media content creation journey, it's highly creative, it's highly intuitive. But I think my research said that we are looking at target audience as our go-to. We need to reach our target audience,
Yeah.
and I always believe that it may not be target audience for my content. It is the interest group that I am interested in.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, these are two different things.
Yeah.
I'm not a conventional target audience for anybody who wants to sell through social media and follow my
Hmm.
footprints.
Hmm.
But you will find me in an interest group,
Yeah.
which is, I don't watch romantic movies, but I do
Hmm.
watch thrillers and spy
Hmm.
movies.
Yeah.
So I'm not a target audience. I'm a target audience of OTT.
Yeah.
I will not be the target audience for a consumption of romantic stories or stuff
Hmm.
like that. I'm an
Yeah.
interest group
Yeah.
from a point of view of my choices to consume.
Hmm.
I think somewhere this is missed, and which is in my own
Yeah.
experiment. I'm
Yeah.
bringing this
Yeah.
interest group as the go-to segment for your
Probably.
content outreach.
Yeah, and I think that's something which is, as we all know, podcasting in India is evolving, and
Yes.
this viewpoint that you bring in could bring a completely different element to the way podcasters are looking at content in days and weeks and months ahead, right? So I mean, I'm sure that's where EtherWire is bringing in that kind of I would simply say as bringing in synchronization of probably thought process towards
Yeah.
podcasting, which we all know that mainstream media is losing its sheen, and television news is losing its sheen, and that's where podcasting, very specific, target oriented, news oriented, content oriented podcasting could come in due course.
Absolutely, Santosh. And the other perspective that I brought in through EtherWire is through my podcast. And I've seen this, there's a little corporate lesson in life type of discussion here, where I see that the business growth can't come if you do not have personal growth happening at the
Hmm.
same time.
Yeah.
So a plugin that can take care of your business growth and a personal growth is what the intention is.
Yeah.
Uh, there is no preaching happening. There is no financial tips that's taking place in my podcast that is underway.
Yeah.
It is here quite similar to you, but in a different context, where the leaders, the thought leaders, are coming and sharing their lives anecdotes
Yeah.
that could become a raw material for somebody as an
Agreed.
inspiration or an example to follow.
True. True.
I'm just doing it in a different context and a content.
Yeah.
Objective is to put India on the global map.
Absolutely.
Bharat made podcast, I think should take over.
Definitely. Definitely. In
Yeah.
fact, how was your first studio experience facing the cameras? I'm sure I'm longing to know that.
Oh my God. Yeah, in fact, my producers had asked me, "Ki, explain and write about your experience." And this is what I told them. See, there are years when you visualize a moment
Hmm.
and you work hard on making that moment take shape
Yeah.
and size. And I remember when I was exactly at the point where I was, the studio lights were lit up, the cameras were rolling, the guest was coming in, and I had to kind of record the introduction
Yeah.
and the camera, the mic, the big
The
mic and
Yeah,
stuff.
that vibrancy brings in the, I'm sure, the
Totally. I remember me going completely numb at that moment.
Hmm.
And when I came back and I wrote, because producers forced me, I remember that moment was numbness, where for me, all feelings disappeared or zeroed down to stillness. I felt like
Yeah.
I everything ceased for me.
True.
Uh,
I can
I
imagine.
and that numbness was the point where all my visions and visualization, or my movement I would have visualized, just came to seize me at that moment. And I remember, um, there was this book called Illusions by Richard Bach, and there's a nice reference that there comes a point in life where you ask, "Is this what you were waiting for? Is
Hmm.
this what you were really working for?" I guess I had the same flash that, okay, this is happening. And and I realized there were so many layers to me. While I have faced camera before, I've done hundreds of moderation of panel discussions, but
Yeah.
this time it was really different.
Totally different. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it was a dream come true, and it wasn't easy as I felt it would be easy. And I remember I started laughing after a while, and somebody said, "Nervousness में होता है." मैं nervous होती हूँ तो मैं हंसती हूँ.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So
Amazing
beautiful,
experience.
fantastic
Yeah, yeah,
experience, so to
yeah.
say.
Jyoti, you have had 25 years of experience in finance, right? If you look at India in the next 25 years, right, and you have been there on the ground, you've interacted with stakeholders both in and outside India. What kind of an India do you see in the next 25 years ahead? And where does Jyoti Rai stand in that India?
Okay.
It's a little heavy question, but
It's a
I'm sure
heavy
you would have
question.
that vision.
It's a very heavy question. I don't know, 25 years are down the line. But I can say two things. One, fortunately for someone like me who started financial market career with, even then these guys were stalwarts.
Yeah.
Like, speaking of Madhukela sir himself,
Hmm.
you had Sunil Singhania, Sandeep Bagla, Nilesh Bhai has always been the, someone we have looked up to,
Yeah.
and many other professionals who were there from where we were learning firsthand.
Hmm.
And I remember the first introduction of India through the internal presentation,
Yeah.
which is given to institutional sales team, happened in Reliance. And I think till today, in fact, last week I was meeting some veterans from the industry. I remember somebody saying कि अगर India listed होता, तो I would have gone long twice. I would have been long twice. I think that conviction never left me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And India, for me, from an investment perspective, it's always been if even if you worked on ground for a few years, you will realize the India markets have been so rich with opportunity,
Hmm.
and all you need is the element of understanding how to encash the opportunity of markets. So, speaking purely on capital markets performance, I was bullish much earlier, way back, and let's face that, Motilal ji used to come and do seminars in remote cities and stuff. You would hear it from these guys directly.
Wow.
And then when you institutional sales career take off, then you are in midst of economic indicators and
Yeah.
data that
Yeah.
is talking to you.
Hmm.
So India always been bullish on it, and hence it translated to me very effectively when I mobilized funds from global investors or brought their attention to Indian markets. Going forward, again, speaking of the capital markets, from an opportunity standpoint of view, of course, if India was listed, I would have been long twice. Uh, so, uh, so that's my point on the promise that Indian markets hold.
Yeah.
The potential, it's far higher.
Okay.
Uh, and no matter what happens globally in terms of highs and lows and various economies, globally having their own challenges and stuff.
Yeah.
India has an inherent talent or adaptation quotient that it just manages to be holding its space
Yeah.
rock solid and absolutely ready to take the next jump,
Yeah.
and it has preparedness at all levels.
Hmm.
That's resilient the market is, the market participants are, the institutions are, the regulators are.
Hmm.
So I am thoroughly convinced, and I'm like, I don't leave a single opportunity to tell any global investor or local investor कि आप क्या wait कर रहे हो.
Correct.
So
Correct. Correct.
in fact, Enigma, there is a series I'm doing Enigma in my podcast, Santosh,
Mm-hmm.
which is typically meant for all the fence sitters, investors, or
Okay.
skeptics,
Okay.
or those who are still evaluating India.
Mm-hmm.
That if you have done your needful, this is the podcast to listen to, change the fence sitters into
Brilliant. And get them
investors.
convinced. Brilliant.
Totally. So I'm
Brilliant.
very bullish from the future prospect of the country.
Superb.
Consumption story is rock solid. Manufacturing story will definitely play out well if
Mm-hmm.
China plus one or Europe plus one today
Yeah.
has to play out.
Yeah.
I think India will have a significant role and say in the global markets from business standpoint and capital market standpoint. And I think we have the fantastic raw material today of right regulations, policy makers coming together. You look at a gift city.
Yeah.
I'm personally so proud of having our own international financial center
Hmm.
right in India. And I have traveled to major financial centers globally in my various roles.
Hmm.
And I can't be amazed enough that what Gift City has put together, the regulators have
Absolutely.
put together. So
Absolutely.
it's a out and out bullish for life, so to
Brilliant. Brilliant.
say.
One last question before we leave, Jyoti. What's a day for Jyoti as she unwinds her, on your off days, weekends, and holidays? So, what's the best thing you love to do, and how do you keep yourself occupied?
Okay, so when I'm alone, I do get up late on
Okay.
those days. I catch up on my sleep. Santosh, I read a lot. I'm a voracious reader.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just to let you know, because I used to do such different roles,
Yeah.
uh, I used to always feel underprepared compared to the industry stalwarts. So I used to always learn, read, understand, discuss a lot. So that has not changed till date.
Mm-hmm.
So I read a lot even at night before I go to sleep. Mornings, if it's a holiday, I get up late, and once I get up, then I don't sleep till the time, till the night.
Yeah.
So I'm up. I don't do snoozing in the afternoon and stuff. I love to cook my meals myself, and I read again. I listen to my music and ghazals in the evening,
Brilliant.
meditate, and go for a walk and kind of sleep. So may appear boring a bit, but trust me, it is
So not
quite.
at all boring, because you're trying to, the beauty of it is you don't snooze in the afternoons, which is so much of productive time, right? And it really takes you ahead. Amazing,
Yes,
amazing,
yes, yes.
fantastic conversation with you, Jyoti Rai, on this podcast of mine. I'm sure very best wishes for your EtherWire podcasting journey, and not just that, your entire life journey, because 25 years and then 25 years is an amazing a journey ahead for you. All the very, very best to you.
Thank you, Santosh. In fact, today I realized that it's 25 years that while I was making my notes. But thank you so much. It was so wonderful to be part of this podcast. And thank you for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
Most welcome. So, guys, that was Jyoti Rai, a business Sherpa and a sales Sherpa with amazing, tremendous experience in finance. But as I said in the beginning, not just core finance, but in various allied sectors and fields in and around, peripheral to it. And well, she's a thought leader. And of course, she's worked with the best in the industry. And that's what the learnings we heard from Jyoti. With that, we come to the end of this episode of The Sound of Money with me, Santosh Sirur. Let's catch up next time on another episode. For now, from me, Santosh Sirur and Jyoti Rai, take care and bye-bye.
Sound of Money with Santosh Sirur.